Hey everyone, this is Cody, and today I'm bringing you part 3 of my vintage Celestron Comet Catcher project. If you haven't seen the previous parts, feel free to catch up on those, but just to bring you up to speed, this is a very vintage telescope and it's of the unique Schmidt-Newtonian design, a design that I really like. The design in principle is to eliminate as much coma as possible when you're viewing through the eyepiece or the camera, and so they stick a Schmidt corrector plate at the front and use a spherical primary mirror. So this telescope has a 140 millimeter aperture, roughly 5.5 inches or so, and a 500 millimeter focal length. So it's designed for really rich, wide field views, hence why they called it the Comet Catcher, and it was designed for the return of Halley's Comet. And so, maybe one day, now that it'll be all ready for modern use, I'll be able to use it to see Halley's Comet as well, which would be pretty neat. So for part 3 today, I'm just gonna put the finishing touches on it. I did get a finder shoe for my carry handle and some Agena Astro finder scope rings. They seem great for their price. I always will buy the off-brand or the generic, and I actually think they look more clean when they don't have brand names all over them, so that helped keep things in budget. And speaking of that, there's 2 main goals for this project. The first goal was to keep this as affordable as possible. So at the end of the video, I'm gonna add up everything I've bought. I probably went over budget a little bit, but I still think everything has been a pretty good deal that I've used to put this together. The second thing I wanted to do was to not make any permanent modifications to this vintage telescope, and I haven't. Everything is still just the same. So in part 2, I added a carry handle, tube rings, and a dovetail so that I could put it on a modern mount. So I'm going to use the ZWO AM3 for imaging, and I'm excited about that. So today I'm just going to be adding a finder shoe, Guidescope rings. I did buy a Baader 36.4 millimeter eyepiece holder. That will replace this original 36.4 millimeter eyepiece barrel. But the real benefit to that is it has a helical focuser on it. So that will allow me to use this really cool Vixen sled focuser for coarse focusing, and then I can lock it down, and then I'll be able to use the helical focuser to try and get as good a focus as possible with my camera. Speaking of camera, I'll probably use the ZWO ASI 183 MC Pro. The small pixels will give me good resolution with this telescope. I could use the 294 MC Pro. It does have a bit larger sensor though, so maybe we would see a little bit more coma with that, and the resolution wouldn't be as good. So we'll see on that. The cool part though is I plan on using the original tripod shoe and putting a finder shoe on top of that. So again, no permanent modification. It is 1/4 inch by 20 threaded, so I'll have to get creative on how I did this, but I did order an Agena Astro, essentially it's like a finder shoe to camera hot shoe adapter, and it's 1/4 inch by 20 threaded, so we'll take that off today and get it mounted, and then I can stick an ASI Air Pro or something in there for image acquisition. So I should have everything I need to finish this project relatively quickly. I don't really foresee any issues. And the other really cool part about this is there's a couple good comets in the sky right now. The one that was discovered at Lemon, you have Swan as well. So yeah, maybe we'll be able to image some comets with it too and put its namesake to test. Here's everything I'll be putting on the Comet Catcher today. So as I mentioned, I have the Baader 36.4 millimeter focusing eyepiece. So this is just going to replace the stock eyepiece barrel and go right into the telescope. As I mentioned, if I unlock this here, it does have a helical focuser on it. So I think this is going to be a great way to focus the camera. The sled focuser will be used for coarse focusing, and I'll use this to get it nice and fine. And with the weight of a big heavy camera, I think this will work better. Then I just have a standard Agena Astro finder shoe. This is cross slotted. It came with M4 machine screws, but I noticed that these slots would hold M5, so I decided to buy some of those with some washers and nuts so that I just get a stronger hold on my carry handle. So we'll put that on the carry handle. And then I have this interesting piece. So this is also an Agena Astro finder shoe, but it is made for a DSLR hot shoe or a mirrorless camera hot shoe. And essentially what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take that whole piece out. It's 1/4 inch by 20 threaded, and that will go into the original tripod shoe on the Comet Catcher, and then hopefully my ASI Air can just slip right in there. So kind of a interesting finder shoe, but it should work perfectly for my purposes. And then I have Agena Astro 50mm finder scope rings. These are awesome. I don't see why you would spend more money on a name brand finder scope rings. They're rubber tipped, really well made, solid, excellent for the price. So my Agena Astro Starguider 2 50mm Guidescope with the helical focuser will go into those rings, and that's what we'll use for guiding. And then lastly, I just had to show you this. I found an original Celestron Comet Catcher T-adapter made specifically for this telescope in the 80s, made in Japan, and this thing is super cool. I'm only showing it to you just in case these telescopes get lost with time or something. You can see it for history's sake. But you have the 36.4mm threads on this side. And if I unthread this, you'll see that this knurled ring drops out. So you have the T adapter for a standard 42mm T ring. That drops in. And this is the telescope side. And obviously this is the camera side. Now what's cool about this was obviously designed for SLRs that have a large back focus amount in the camera. So I put my DSLR on here, put this right into the Comet Catcher, and I went and imaged the moon, and it looked great. So it works, and it's pretty cool to have this made in Japan, like I mentioned. And the cool thing is, just like the Celestron Schmidt-Cassegrain T-adapters, you can just unthread this knurled knob here, and you can change the orientation of your camera. So I'm actually going to show how this works on the telescope. Like I said, just for fun, for history's sake. I probably won't use this a whole lot, but I think it's really cool to have. So that's everything I'm going to put on the Comet Catcher, so let's get to it. And one thing I will mention, I'll put a link to all of this in the description if you're interested in kind of copying my method, minus the Comet Catcher T adapter, of course, because you haven't been able to buy those probably for close to 40 years. Well, I ran into my first issue. I thought today would be pretty simple, but I thought wrong. I cannot get this central bolt out. I've tried everything. I stuck it in a vise. I marred up the bottom of this a little bit. Not too bad, but it won't budge. And if you actually think about it, it makes sense, because if you put this in a camera hot shoe, you want this large knurled ring to turn. You don't want the central bolt to turn. So my assumption is they probably put in some Loctite or rock set or something like that so that central bolt won't move, but I need to get that out. So my next step is to hit it with my heat gun, probably get it to around 300 to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Hopefully I can get this central bolt out so that I can mount it on the Comet Catcher tripod shoe. Yep, it's coming. Yep, there we go. Oh, that's hot, but it's coming out. Ah, yeah. Yep, that was definitely some sort of Loctite in there, but the heat gun took it right out. I probably got this to about 300 to 400 degrees before this started to melt, so definitely some sort of Loctite that they used to secure this, but I don't intend to use this in a camera hot shoe or anything like that. I just wanted access to this 1/4 inch by 20 thread here, and it is gummed up with a little bit of glue, so I am just going to run my 1/4 inch by 20 tap through it real quick just to clean up those threads. Unfortunately, my soft jaws on my vise are kind of mangled. I need to get some new ones, so I'm not going to use my vise. I'm just going to pull it by hand here, but since the thread's already cut, this shouldn't require much effort. Just cutting the rest of this glue out. There we go. Perfect, that should spin freely now. Yep, there we go. Now we should have nice, clean 1/4 inch by 20 threads. Yep, that looks good. Brush off the back. Get all those thread machine bits or metal bits out of there. Okay. Perfect. Back this off. Oops. And, oh yeah, those are nice and clean threads right there. And let's see how this 1/4 inch goes in. Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so now I can use this on the Comet Catcher's original tripod foot. So the ASI Air Pro should just slip right into here. Now that I think about it, it doesn't make much sense for this hole to be threaded as well as this one. So I'm going to go ahead and drill these threads out so that this is smooth. That way I can orient this how I want. So I'm just going to do that real quick. Okay, so I went ahead and drilled out the threads here, so now the 1/4 inch by 20 bolt just drops in, and now this should just thread in nicely to the original tripod shoe. Just converting it now to a finder shoe. And I could just direct thread the ASI Air to here with a 1/4 inch by 20 male-to-male adapter, but I like the quick detach that the finder shoe gives me. Oh yeah, that's perfect. Sweet. Looks like that worked out after all. Next, I'll mount my Agena Astro finder shoe to my carry handle. The nice thing about this too is if I'm not doing astrophotography, I can just take my Guidescope out and I could put on a Celestron Star Sense and it would still be pretty lightweight and portable, or even a finder scope. So there's a lot of versatility to having a finder shoe on my carry handle here. And just with my luck, you'll see that my Agena Astro finder shoe just barely does not fit the Explore Scientific carry handle here. So I'm back out here at the workbench and I'll try and remove some material from one of the inner edges here so that I can get this to sit flat. All right, I got some electric tape on here. I'm just going to gently squeeze down on here. That seems pretty good. And start removing some material. And it's not going to take much, so I'll just stop after a minute here. I'm not gonna lie, that was a massive pain in the butt. I had to remove way more material than I thought I'd have to. Interestingly enough, it only turned out that I removed 1 millimeter or so. So not a lot, but it felt like a ton. It took me about 2,000 to 2,500 strokes of the file, I would guess, and you can see just how worn out my file is on the edges. However, I did take off the perfect amount of material. It does sit nice and flat on my carry handle now and looks pretty good. I could have bought a flat finder shoe and just stuck that on there, but again, I'm trying to keep this affordable, so I just wanted to use what I have on hand. Lesson learned, I will say, that was not pleasant at all, but I can go ahead and mount it now. Okay, we'll go ahead and put this on right there. Drop a washer on there and a nut. And I'm just going to hold that in place while I tighten it from the other side. There we go. Next, I'll add the Agena Guidescope to these Agena rings and get that done. As I mentioned, I do have a Celestron Comet Catcher T adapter, and who knows how long these telescopes will be out there, so I just thought it'd be fun to document how this works. So let's check it out. Okay, so I'll remove the 36.4 millimeter eyepiece barrel or eyepiece holder here from the Comet Catcher. There we go. And then I'll take the Celestron Comet Catcher T adapter and thread that into the focuser. There we go, just like that. And then while I'm holding that piece in, I'm just gonna loosen the knurled ring a little bit. And then I have one of the older style DSLRs, so it has a lot of back focus. That sensor to flange distance is really deep, and that's what's going to allow it to focus, just like the old 1980s film SLRs. So I have my Celestron T-ring on here, just the T-thread, 42 millimeter, and I'll go ahead and thread that on. And of course, I could have put my T-ring on first and just clicked my camera into place. Either way works. But yeah, what you'll see is just like the Celestron Schmidt-Cassegrain T adapters, I can just unthread the knurled ring. Let me do that from the bottom here. There we go. And I can move my camera to whatever orientation I want. It's pretty awesome. And then I can just tighten it down, and I am good to image with this Vixen sled focuser. Really neat. I imaged the moon with this just the other night in this exact configuration, and it worked great, and I was able to achieve focus. Now with a modern deep sky camera that does not have as much back focus from that sensor to flange, you would need an extension tube, but because this is T-threaded, you could just get a T-threaded extension tube and be able to use a deep sky camera as well. You just have to adjust the focus or tension for that extra weight hanging off the side. I probably won't use the telescope in this configuration too often, but it is nice to have this if I ever do. I'm going to go ahead and thread on the Baader focusing eyepiece holder now. There we go. Awesome. And then yeah, like I mentioned, this will give me the ability to have a helical focuser on here now, so I can unlock the sled focuser and I can do my coarse focus here. I can lock that down, and then I can unlock this one and get a nice crisp focus. So for eyepieces, I might need an extension tube in here, which is totally fine. Hopefully with modern deep sky cameras, I have enough of that back focus to get a nice crisp focus there. Okay, let's drop on the Guidescope. I do have the ZWO ASI 178MC camera on here. It's got small pixels, so this should give me good Guidescope resolution. I'll go ahead and secure this on here. And this thing is basically all finished. Really excited about it. Let's go ahead and give you a look at that nice Schmidt corrector plate too. Oh yeah, that looks awesome. The last step is to just make sure that I can get the ASI Air Pro on here, and then we should be good. I loosened the tube rings and rotated the Comet Catcher so that the focuser is upside down, as you would typically do with the Newtonian telescope. What that did is it made my tripod shoe / finder shoe combo here rotate from the bottom of the tube up here to the top in the perfect position for my ASI Air Pro. I know, I'm old school, still have old stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip that in now and tighten that down. And that couldn't have worked out any better. So really happy Agena had that cool hot shoe, finder shoe that I could kind of modify a little bit to fit this. So perfect. This looks amazing too. This doesn't really even look like a 1983 telescope anymore. It just looks phenomenal. I'm really excited to see how this performs, but basically my camera cables will go right into here. My mount cables will go right into here. Auto guider. This is perfect. I couldn't have asked for this to go any better. And again, I didn't make any permanent modifications to this whatsoever. If I want to switch it back to visual use, I can just pop out my ASI Air Pro, pop out my auto guider, and just rotate the tube back. And again, I just have a super lightweight visual setup. So rich field telescope, really excited to try this out. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is how much I spent on this. So I'll add it all up and see how affordable it was. But honestly, I think it's going to be pretty reasonable. So what was the damage? Well, my telescope was about $150 with $20 shipping. So I was at about $170 there, which is amazing because it was basically brand new in someone's closet in the box for like 40 years. So I got pretty lucky there. The two finder scope shoes that I got from Agena Astro were $17 each. The Agena Astro tube rings were $51. The Agena Astro finder scope rings were $40. The Baader 36.4 millimeter focusing eyepiece holder was $59. The felt I got from Scope Stuff was about $15. I didn't end up using it, but I did buy it, so I added it to my cost. My carry handle and dovetail, those were $30. And the used Guidescope I got, the Agena Astro Star Guider 2, was $50. So all total, oh, and the felt, can't forget that. That was like a quarter from Hobby Lobby. So all total, I spent about $449.25. I will add the Celestron Comet Catcher T adapter to my cost though. I paid $30 for it. So I'm out basically $480. I just had to have this. So honestly, I think that is pretty amazing seeing that everything that I did to this, I'm out about $450. A lot of the times these telescopes will sell used for $350 to $400. So I feel like I did a really good job here. But anyway, I am absolutely so excited to image with this. So that's what we're gonna do in part 4. I'm just gonna go ahead and image with the Comet Catcher and we'll see how it does, this 1983 Schmidt-Newtonian. So I do appreciate you watching. I hope you enjoyed this project thus far. I did run into a few hiccups that I wasn't expecting, but was able to work through those, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this video on this really cool, unique telescope, and I think it looks amazing and I hope it performs amazing as well. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day and clear skies.